Hello, Julie here, and let me say that I appreciate the fact that you are here watching my video today. I'm going to create a pocket for my journal that I'm currently working on. This journal is in my series Create a Junk Journal from Start to Finish, and I will put a link to the playlist in the description box if you want to have a look at the previous videos I've created in this series. This is shows everything that I'm doing, right from creating the covers to signatures, everything. So this is one of the pockets that I will be putting into my journal. I'm starting with a piece of cardstock that's 12 by 12 and I'm trimming it down so I've got a piece that's 4 inches by 11.5 inches. Now I'm going to score that at 4 inches and then I turn it around and score at 3.5 inches, but I could just score at 4 inches and 8 inches if I wanted to leave it in the same spot. So if you're leaving your cardstock in the one orientation, so we're scoring along the 12-inch side, we could score at 4 inches and 8 inches. So now I'm going to fold both edges into the centre. So the 4-inch fold I'm going to fold up and the 8-inch fold will be folded down. This is going to make my pocket. I made it 5 inches wide because the pages in my journal are about 5.5 inches wide, I think, but I've stitched around each page and I wanted the pocket to fit inside of that stitching. So when I folded it up, I decided that I didn't want that bottom flap to be right up to the crease, so I've cut a 1/2 inch off of that. So now I've got a 3.5 inch piece, a fold, a 4-inch piece, a fold, and then a 3.5 inch piece. But that gives me a bit of room to put things into that pocket. Now the pattern paper that I'm going to use for this envelope or this pocket is an old Prima paper. Now this is really old and it's called Something Blue. I'm choosing a pattern paper from that and I'm going to trim that down to cover my pockets. I'm just using the mark and cut system for this. I'm not measuring and going that way. I'm just using a pencil to mark where I need to cut the pattern paper. Now I am leaving a very fine border all the way around the pattern paper. I would say it's probably less than 1/16 of an inch around each side. So when it comes to cutting the piece to go in the top fold down section, I want it to go past where that bottom section folds up. So it's got to go past the fold so that when you open the envelope you don't see any white at all. So I said envelope and it could be called an envelope. It looks a bit like an envelope if you fold the flap down. So envelope, pocket, whatever you like to call it. So I wanted to put a notch in the bottom section of the pocket, and to do that I'm using my corner round punch. It's got the corner round on one side and a notch on the other. If you put the two edges of your paper, like your cardstock and your pattern paper, up level with each other and punch, when you move down that fraction, they will be perfectly aligned. Once I've got my pattern papers cut, I'm going to use my vintage photo and ink around the edge of all of my pattern papers. I inked the edges of the cardstock as well. Now I'm going to use my art glitter glue to attach my pattern papers to my pocket. So when it came to choosing paper for the top of the pocket, or the flap that folds down, I didn't have a piece that was big enough, so I decided that I did have two smaller pieces that I could use. So I created a little tuck spot or pocket in the actual top of the envelope or pocket. So I've cut two pieces that are the same width or height as the top of the envelope, and then I've overlapped one with the other so that I've got a nice little tuck spot there. Once I'd trimmed my papers down to size, I inked around the edges of them and attached one piece to the top flap, or the outside top flap, because I plan on stitching around these pockets, and to stitch on the one that lays on top, I have to stitch the opening edge first before I actually attach it to the pocket. So now you can see I've stitched everywhere. I've got that little pocket on the front now, and I've also stitched around the whole envelope pocket structure, and I've stitched across the top of the inside pocket as well. I used a brown thread to do that. I used my bone folder and run over the top of the back of the stitching, so the side that's on the underside when you're stitching, and it just helps to make your paper smooth again. Now I've chosen some pattern papers to make some tags to go, or well, they're not tags, they're journaling spots to go into my pockets. I have chosen pink, or sort of a pink, because the album that I'm using has got quite a few avocado dyed papers in them which are a pinky colour. So hopefully these will go well with that. So I'm trimming my pattern papers down, and I'm going to back these onto some of that same cardstock that I used to actually create the pocket. I'm making two journaling spots, one to go in the inside pocket and one to go in the pocket on the top of the envelope. The one on the top, of course, is a lot smaller than the one that goes inside the bigger pocket. Once again, I'm just using the mark and cut method instead of measuring them. I'm finding that that's working quite well. So I'm going to attach those pattern papers, as I said, to some of the cardstock that I used to create the pocket. I'm going to attach them with my art glitter glue, and then I'm going to use my trimmer to trim them up. I could do it with scissors, but seeing as how I'm such a terrible cutter with scissors, I can't cut a straight line to save myself. I'll use my trimmer. Now I'm going to round the corners on my journaling spots. I find that they slide in and out of pockets better if they've got rounded corners. Once I've inked around the edges, I take them to my sewing machine and stitch around the edge of them all. Going around those rounded corners is not an easy task, and to get it nice and even is very, very difficult. If you have any tips on how to achieve this, I would love to hear them in the comments. I'd be forever in your debt. I'm going to use my crocodile and put an eyelet in the top right hand corner of each one of those tags. I'm going for the antique-y, bronzy looking eyelets. Now I've used my Tim Holtz collector envelope dies to cut two small tags from each of two different pattern papers. They're just scraps from the pad that I'm using. I'm going to ink around the edge of those, and then I'm going to use some very fine silk ribbon to attach those tiny tags to the eyelets of the bigger journaling cards. This silk ribbon came from my mum. She used to do the silk ribbon flowers, and this is one of her cast-offs. Time now to choose a spot in my journal to attach my pockets, and I decide that I'm going to put this assembly on the inside front cover. I think it looks nice there. The avocado dyed paper in the background matches nicely with the pattern papers I've used on the tags. To attach this, I'm going to use my art glitter glue, and I'm going to just attach, well actually I think I changed my mind, and I'm going to put some double-sided tape down first. I've got some thin double-sided tape, about 1/8 of an inch. I put that on the three sides first, and then I use the liquid glue. I'm sort of doubling my bets here. I'm hedging all my options. I want to make sure that this pocket stays in place, and because you know you're sliding things in and out of it. So yes, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use double-sided tape, and then I'm going to use the art glitter glue on top of that. That also lets me have a little bit of slipping time, so I can make sure that I get the pocket in exactly the spot that I want it to go in. I have had in the past when I've made albums and things, the double-sided tape on its own doesn't sort of last forever, so that's why I'm more inclined to use the liquid glue these days. I believe the art glitter glue has got a really good reputation for staying in place and lasting a long time, so hopefully all of these things that we make these days will last for at least 20 years. So that's my procedure for attaching this assembly to the inside front cover of my journal. Now, I did find that when I attached my pocket to the inside of my journal, because I had that ribbon in that inside journaling spot, the flap of the pockets wouldn't close properly, and so it was too bulky. So I've taken that tag out, and I'm going to put that in the pocket behind the pocket, and I'll make another journaling spot to go in there that won't have any ribbon in it, so that will help to that flap of the assembly we've just made today sit better and won't take up so much room inside of my album or inside of my journal. So that's it for today's video. I hope you've enjoyed watching it. I've enjoyed this little project, and I'm actually enjoying the whole series, so I hope you can follow along. I have got quite a few pages in here that have to be decorated. I'm certainly not going to be going anywhere near decorating all of them or making embellishments for all of them. We do need to leave some space for writing, I guess. So yeah, that's it for today. Thank you for joining me. If you're not already a subscriber, I'd love it if you would subscribe. I will put a link in the description box below to the playlist for creating this journal from start to finish. So if you want to check that out, I've started right from creating the cover using an old book cover and worked my way through to this point. So yeah, thank you for joining me, and I hope you can join me when I post my next video. Bye.